them all roast. Good morning. Pow, right in the kisser. One of these days, Alice to the moon. I love that old show, The Honeymooners. One of the running gags was that one of these days Ralph Cramden was going to punch his wife so hard she was going to fly to the moon. One of these days, Alice, to the moon with you. Hello, Mr. Naughty Priest. Look at you. Early to jump on board today. Very nice of you. Very nice to see you as usual.
I don't know if you could do that joke anymore.
What?
The domestic violence joke.
No, I don't think you could. Yeah. There was a lot of that back in those days. Why, I oughta. You'll see it in cartoons, too.
Yeah.
Ralph Cramden. He was like a rage beast, basically. A funny rage beast, but a rage beast that was just right on the edge of beating the shit out of his wife constantly. Gotta love that. And he had a high-functioning autistic neighbor, too, that was constantly misunderstanding things and getting into hijinks. And there was All in the Family with Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker was basically America's white racist id on TV. And they made it funny by having him live with his teenage children who were hippies.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have these teenage children who were always being like, you know, Dad, color doesn't mean anything. And he'd have some like witty quip like, well, I mean, it means something. It means somebody's darker somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And the whole fucking crowd would laugh at it. Like it was presented like he was in the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that everybody was constantly having to correct him for being so backwards and stuff. But really, like, he was there for people to identify with.
Yeah. They touched on that in The Sopranos.
What?
With Meadows' black boyfriend for a little while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tony Soprano is definitely an Archie Bunker. Yeah. You trace the lineage of Tony Soprano through Archie Bunker and Ralph Cramden, for sure. Just this kind of blustering front man who's wrong but doesn't like to be wrong. Mm-hmm. Who's surrounded by people who think he's wrong. It's pretty interesting. I feel like there's like a video essay on that somewhere, like the evolution of the male lead in sitcoms. So you had another one too. Like during the 90s, feminism was the big deal. It was like women empowerment, girl power, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And the 90s had Al Bundy from Married with Children. Mm-hmm. Who was basically just a rampant misogynist. Mm-hmm. Of course, he was surrounded by his children who were teenagers who were way more woke, so to speak, and his wife who was a liberated woman. Mm-hmm. But his whole thing was just like the working man's burden, you know what I mean? I gotta take care of fucking everything, and I can't trust anybody to take care of anything, and women this, and he was all about fat jokes too, because I guess the very beginning of like what would become fat acceptance was happening in the 90s. Like women becoming more comfortable with their bodies,
or at the very least, like, let's not have Skeletors on on the magazine covers.
I mean, that was still going on, the skill. In fact, it was probably at its height
Yeah.
in the 90s. But you know, there were also like, you know, these big and tall type of places opening up and marketing to bigger women and bigger sizes and shoes and pants and all that. He worked at a shoe store, and one of the running gags on the show was a big fat woman would come in to look for shoes, and you know, he couldn't find a pair that fit her because her feet were so fat or whatever the fuck, and he would make some kind of nasty quip to her, and she'd get offended and run out of the place. And as she was running out, he'd like point her to the food court or whatever, you know. Like he worked in a shoe store in the mall. But that was his big thing, was just like the kind of white man's burden thing. And that was Archie Bunker's thing, and that was Ralph Cramden's thing. That was Tony Soprano's thing. Like everything falls on my shoulders, even when it doesn't. The refusal to share that responsibility because you don't trust anybody to do it. Because you feel like you're the man of the house and you're the only one that can do it right. Central to that type of character, and you really can trace the lineage of Tony Soprano from all of those characters. Probably quite a few more I'm not mentioning. It's real interesting to me, but I wouldn't know how to, like, what's the angle, you know?
Yeah.
How do you tie all that up? Just examining Tony Soprano through the lens of three other sitcom leaders. Sopranos is basically a black comedy sitcom, like a dark comic sitcom.
The It of America sitcom.
Well, that's what it is. It's like those shows were all huge. Married with Children was fucking huge, and people didn't watch it because they hated Al Bundy. They watched it because Al Bundy said shit to feminists and about women and about how stupid kids were, and he'd even make some racial intonations, although he was way less racist than the others. You know what I mean? He would say the things that weren't PC to say. And the same thing goes for Archie Bunker. There was this women's lib thing in the 60s and 70s when All in the Family, or I think it was the 70s, All in the Family was a thing, you know, and he represented the generation came before all this crazy new wokeness. You know what I mean? And he was meant to be like kind of the heel of the show, but people tuned in for him to hear him say the things they weren't allowed to say. Like a little racism, sexism, misogyny, conservative release valve. I'm not complaining about it either. All those shows are funny as fuck if you watch them.
We don't watch cable, so we don't know if there's a comparable sitcom today.
I mean, I think that there probably are. I haven't seen Breaking Bad, but I'm sure Walter White fits the archetype as well. Isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't part of his journey giving up on pleasing other people and saying fuck it and just doing like whatever the fuck he wants?
And refusing help is
Right.
the whole crux of the whole series.
Right. He just thinks he knows how to do it better, and he's decided fuck everybody else, and he's gonna say and do and be whatever he wants to be because fuck you, he's dying. And so you can definitely see that line there. You know, there's not a lot of that serious portent hanging over honeymooners and All in the Family and stuff like that, but it's the same idea. It's like, fuck you, I know better. Went from boring pushover to a control junkie, right? And somebody who's never wrong even when they're wrong. You know, they always have a reason why they're right. Well, yeah, that generational divide is constantly repeated in situation comedies and TV shows in general. It's always the old versus the young, the old way of doing things versus the youthful way. I mean, even this like first season of The Wire is about that. You've got like this young detective McNulty who really cares about trying to, you know, impinge on crime and is willing to like go up against the stuffy kind of last generation aristocracy in the police department and really rankle them to no end because they've got their own little kind of boomerish way of just dealing with things. Trying to think of other examples. There were different types of archetypes. Like there was the happy family archetype as well. And that one you can trace back to Leave It to Beaver. There was the unhappy family archetype. That would be Honeymooners and all the ones that I've mentioned. All in the Family, Married with Children, The Sopranos. And then there was the happy family archetype, like Full House.
Cosby.
The Cosby Show. What was that one with Steve Urkel in it? It's not all in the Family Matters. Family Ties. Show me that smile again.
Well, the Brady Bunch, is that one?
Yeah, the Brady Bunch was the happy family dynamic. You know what I mean? Had a good mom, had a good dad. Both were level-headed, and if they messed up, they apologized. There was like a Christian version of it too. I can't remember what it was, but that show was fucking super popular too, where the dad was like a Christian preacher, and it was constantly like one of his kids started smoking pot, and that'd be the whole episode. And then there would be like a homeless kid that they would let stay with them, and blah 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 blah, and that'd be the whole episode. He was always fighting some social ill. But at home, they always had this very loving, supporting family. Fascinating perspective. I agree with you about Paul. The difference in perspective is a different reality. Right. So you're getting to see little windows into what a lot of people wish things were. And then you're getting to see little windows into what things really are actually like in people's houses. Like Al Bundy was like a raging alcoholic. You know what I mean? He was constantly drinking. So was Archie Bunker. So was Tony Soprano. You know what I mean? They were raging and, like, honestly, raging and alcoholic, that means abusive. So they were abusive dudes. They were dudes that made people in their house, like, if you really take it out of the context of the situation comedy, look at Al Bundy. Al Bundy's whole job was to tear down everybody in that house. And I've lived with a person like that. You know what I mean? Like, my dad was like that. He, maybe not in the same way that Al Bundy was, but my dad was the resident, I'm disappointed in everything you fucking do guy. And I'm going to make a witty little quip that humiliates you in front of everybody. Like, that's what Al Bundy does to his family all day long. Peg, his wife, will come up to him and say something very nice. You know what I mean? To him, like, oh, I made
meatloaf
or whatever, and he will have some fucking shitty thing to say about it. In those ways, you could say that they're tragic characters that suffer from extreme self-loathing, that they lash out in whatever they can in order to cope. Yeah.
I don't know if it's self-loathing or if it's just narcissism.
I mean, I think honestly that, like, those things are sometimes intrinsically connected. Like, I think a narcissist sometimes is at the core of themselves. They hate themselves for not actually reaching the perfection they profess. But, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, though. I mean, the Simpsons are like the Rosetta Stone for this type of shit, because they're both.
Yeah.
They're both the bad family with the weird, abusive, stupid, drunk dad, and the good family on the block. They manage to be simultaneously both. Because, if you really want to look at characters that are inspired by the characters from the shows that I'm talking about, you look at The Simpsons. And they used to, at the very least, cover all the same type of stuff that I'm talking about. Just kind of like providing a counter voice to the common and popular social issue. I never thought about it before. My spouse's dad is Al Bundy. Yeah, a lot of people's dads are Al Bundy. I think that's as good an answer as any, as when people ask, like, why did the Simpsons persist and still persist to this day for so long? It's because it just captured the essence of every sitcom. Every family sitcom is in that show. Every dynamic that can be explored in a family sitcom is in that show.
Work sitcoms too, in a way, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, like work sitcoms. I mean, it's oftentimes the same kind of idea. Like the boss is often the paternal character. Obviously, he's the one that's laying down the law, and the boss is often portrayed as incompetent and self-absorbed and mean and cruel for no reason. And then the workers are varying levels of, capitulating to his weirdness. Did you like Everybody Loves Raymond? No, I didn't. I've always found Ray Romano really annoying. I can't really put my finger on why, but he just kind of annoys the shit out of me. The best is ready to begin. As long as we got each other, we got the world spinning right in our hands. Favorite sitcom themes? I used to love the Who's the Boss theme, but I cannot fucking for the life of me remember how it went. Who's the Boss? How did that go? When I was a kid, I fucking loved it.
Do I need to play like a couple bars or something?
Who's the Boss? If you want to, yeah. If it's not too much trouble to Google it up and crank your speaker. Give me a bar and I'll remember it. I just need to hear how it begins, you know what I mean? And that, like, give me like 3 seconds of it. I'll be able to remember it. I have not listened to the new The Smile album, no. Okay, yeah. There's a time for love and a time for living, so take a chance and face the wind. There's an open road and a road that's hidden, brand new life beyond the bend. There were times I lost a dream or two, found the trail, and at the end was you. It goes on like that. So that was a good one. That's an underrated one. That's one you don't hear talked about a whole lot. I loved the use of Dean Martin's Love and Marriage for Married with Children. It's so sad when you watch Married with Children now, like on Hulu or Amazon or wherever the fuck it is, when you watch it on a streaming platform, they've had to replace the opening song with this horrible, like, cacophony of shit because they couldn't relicense. Because they actually, instead of having a song written for the show like that one was, but what I just sang was written just expressly for that song, or at least licensed expressly. That song, Love and Marriage, was huge already, and so they licensed it for use while the song was on, or while the show was on, but after it went off. And they didn't want to pay the Dean Martin estate.
Yeah.
But that's a great song. So that's got a good one. Cheers had a great theme, too.
Maybe that's what we need if we can't get into The Wire season 2. Let's find a sitcom.
Yeah. I mean, I've been meaning to watch Cheers again. Love and marriage, love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. Ever wonder about technology getting so good they can bring back entire shows with deep fakes and just keep them going? Star Wars is starting to do that. What a nightmare. Hey, dude, that shit was called all the way back in the late 80s, man. In 1989, I think, is when Back to the Future Part 2 came out. And if you guys have seen that movie, you will remember, it's either 89 or 90, you'll remember that in that movie, Marty McFly goes to the future, right? He goes to what was it? It was like 2017 or some shit, or 2018. And he walks into this cafe that used to be the little cafe in town, and now it's still a cafe. And he walks in, and there's like this horrifying animatronic Michael Jackson. And on the TVs, celebrities who are long dead will come on and like glitchily like, hey, it's me, Michael Jackson. I want to sell you, 2015, thank you. As the year he supposedly went back to in the movie. But yeah, so he called it.
What about The Running Man? They called it even more.
Dude, The Running Man has got the most amazing deep fake reference that nobody ever talks about, dude. Yeah, so in The Running Man, if you guys remember, there's a part where he's winning and they're losing the crowd, and they're like, we have to kill him, but we can't kill him. And then they're like, what if we just fake killing him? And so they take scans of his face and put it over an actor and have it shoot a fake scene where it looks like it's Arnold getting killed, and then they play that for people. And dude, nobody ever talks about that shit. But there's a movie from the deep 80s that called deepfakes and how they would be used. So not only did it like functionally in my mind, if not invent, really advance the idea of taking somebody else's face, putting it on an actor and making them do something that's damaging and releasing that, you know what I mean, for nefarious purposes. It came up with that very idea possibly, and it came up with exactly how it's going to be used. In addition to bringing back every dead celebrity.
Didn't they deep fake Zelensky surrendering or something briefly?
If they did, I missed it. But I mean, there's already crazy deep fakes.
That Tom Cruise one, I'm sure you saw that one.
Yeah, dude. One of the craziest ones is some dude deep faked Jim Carrey into The Shining.
Yeah.
Replace Jack Nicholson with Jim Carrey. It's fucking uncanny. It's perfect. Oh, it's like nigh on perfect. If you didn't know you were looking at a deep fake, you would have assumed that.
That's just how the movie
Right.
went.
So, pretty crazy.
Maybe we'll get deep faked Ray Liotta for the next part of Saints in Newark.
Maybe. So what do you think about if they resurrect old shows like that? I mean, there's no way they're not going to. Look, they can't do it now. Or maybe they're on the cusp of being able to do it now, but look at what they've already done. Instead of, and make no bones about it, dude, there were remakes and stuff in the 80s. But look at my generation of film, the 80s and the 90s. Look at how many brand spanking new, never heard of them before properties were made in the 80s and 90s and have now been remade. It's absurd. All these great new fresh ideas were made back in Hollywood in that era. A lot of talented directors were given carte blanche to make all kinds of crazy movies, and they're all classics, and they've all been remade, like The Thing. John Carpenter makes this transcendent movie that holds up to this day as some of the best, maybe arguably the best practical effects overall in any film ever made. And they remade it and made it CGI. And the remake is crap. RoboCop. Like a deviously, underhandedly counterculture film that is about police brutality and, just like the dangers of corporate control. And it comes out and people fucking love it. They eat it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert. And they remake it, and it's a garbage tier CGI action spectacle movie. Ghostbusters. Brand new IP comes out. And it's crazy good because in a time when like action heroes and the heroes of movies were all these big yoked dudes, they come up with this amazing idea to make four bookish nerds, the heroes of a film. And they make this brilliant action, horror, comedy hybrid that brings together some of the best talent on the planet. And everybody eats it up. And then they remake it. And it's just got all the soul sucked out of it. It's garbage tier. So what makes you think that they're going to show deference to anything that they own? They've already shown that they're going to take some of their most classic stuff and wipe their ass with it. And they don't care what you have to say about it. So as the technology gets possible for them to take old actors who are dead and just reuse them in things, they're going to do it over and over and over again.
There might even be like stipulations and contracts for newer actors, like you have the rights to your visage after you die.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, when Robert Zemeckis dies and the rights for those movies transferred to wherever they go, whether it's his estate or whatever, whether they're sold off, we're going to get Goonies. We're going to get Back to the Future. Or sorry, not Goonies. We're going to get Back to the Future remakes all the way across the board. Fucking what's his name that plays Spider-Man now? Tom Holland will play Marty McFly. And there'll be a Michael J. Fox cameo in it. And or you know what? They might make Marty McFly like Martine McFly,
Yeah.
and make her like a little spunky black teenager.
Yeah.
That's like, say what you want, dude. I'm not trying to be anti-woke, but tell me that's not a total possibility. Or make the professor like a crazy woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be that ruins the movie. It'll be that all the soul of the film is sucked out of it. It's either too direct a remake or too silly. Doesn't hit the same tone.
You think of all this worshipping at the altar of like these Star Trek and Star Wars shows.
Oh my god, I don't know, man. From what I can tell, they're just pale shades of what used to be, and people are just People have always been too attached to those properties, though. Mm-hmm. Star Wars geeks and Trekkies are like a group of, and I'm borderline both, but I'm just not so diehard that I'm gonna lap up every piece of crap that's thrown in front of me. Like, I know what I like, and if they don't give me that, I'm not happy with it. But yeah, the Star Wars fandom and the Star Trek fandom, it's a lot of overlap too. Mm. But yeah, it's filled with a lot of delusional people. There's a lot of people that have been propping up both things for a very long time.
Just juicing that nostalgia.
Oh god. Not only that, but really trying to establish that, like, this is, because they're made for kids. Like, that's the thing, is like they're aiming these movies at children because they want this to be their Star Wars that they remember. And it's just like, man, when the totally fucking superior product is already available and you have nothing new to add, then stop it. And I really do think that they could make a bunch of Star Wars types of properties that would be good. They're just not doing it.
So they want to cling to the same universe because it's already established.
Mm-hmm.
Universe building is probably the hardest thing with shows like that.
They want to make sure that all the diehards that are just into the originals still show up by putting somebody from the originals in every fucking property. Mm. Every fucking property has somebody from the originals in it to just desperately cling to that same era when it could be a totally way more expansive thing. Fuck, I need that wrist brace.
Yeah.
Thank you, baby. Yeah, it turns out, like, whatever's going on with my hand, it is some kind of carpal tunnel. Because I got a wrist brace, and it really helps to minimize the shit I'm going through right now.
Tingles.
Which is just shooting fucking tingles and that shit. Looks like I'm going to have to get myself a collection of these.
Yeah.
And just start wearing them, because I'm not getting fucking surgery. I don't really think there's many surgical options for carpal tunnel anyway. Mm.
I mean, you probably just wash that in the sink, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. Just probably be good to try out like different brands of them and stuff. But yeah, it really helps. Do you do hand stretches, like hold your arm straight forward and stretch the hand down and then back? I don't. Bam, pow, we need to abandon the dark and brooding Batman. Campy Adam West for life. I don't necessarily agree we have to go all the way back to like Batman TV shows levels of campiness, but I do think we need to ditch the dark, brooding atmosphere. I think DC in general needs to stop trying to be grimdark Marvel and maybe embrace some of the joie de vivre and their properties for sure.
We watched the original Superman not that long ago, and it was silly, but it worked.
Yeah, no, it was a good. I mean, it was a great movie. It's silly, but it's kind of like unapologetically silly.
Literally lifting the crust of the earth.
Yeah, dude, I told you I think it's in the next movie. Flies around he flies around the earth so fast that he reverses it
I think, yeah, we saw that.
and he
too.
rewinds time.
Yeah, we saw that too.
Oh, was that in the
Yeah.
first one too? Yeah. Ridiculous, man.
I don't know, the crust of the earth thing is what impressed me the most.
Yeah, he did hold up the whole fucking goddamn mantle or whatever. Come on, you fucks, you.
It's on your other slipper.
Woo-ha. Might move this inside today.
Yeah.
Just run around and play a little cyberpunk. Show everybody the absurdity of my power now. I think it's going to be too warm for me to sit out here for much longer. If it had stayed overcast.
Yeah. I mean, it might overcast again. The sun doesn't seem to want to decide what it wants to do.
Yeah. It's just starting to get shveddy. It's starting to get shveddy. So yeah, maybe I'll move this inside, do a little streaming. See you